Hello, everybody. We're going to get started in just a few minutes. Appreciate you showing up this morning. Grab yourself a cup of coffee. We'll be right back. Good morning, everybody. It is 10 a.m. sharp, and we're going to get started. Thank you for showing up on this beautiful overcast Saturday. I am Pete Panito, Community Outreach Business Development Contact here at First Northern. We have Yadi Vargas, Branch Manager at our Evanston branch, and all-around awesome individual who knows her financial stuff. She will be presenting this morning's webinar, Women and Money, and you can download the workshop handout if you'd like. It would be on the right-hand side of your screen under the handout section. Any questions, please ask them in the chat box. Don't be shy. It comes to Yadi and myself directly, and I will answer any questions that come in. And if it's something that I can't answer, Yadi will address it at the end of the presentation, okay? This presentation is part of our monthly financial wellness program here at First Northern. We also have a special series in partnership with the City of Evanston over the next several months, and I will share that information regarding that stuff in our follow-up email in the next few days. And with that, I will turn the microphone over to Yadi. Yadi, it is all yours.
Thanks, Pete. Good morning, everyone. As Pete mentioned, my name is Yadi Vargas. I'm actually the branch manager at the Evanston location for First Northern Credit Union. And yes, thank you for joining us this morning. The topic for today is women and money. throughout the seminar. I would like you to figure out exactly why you decided to attend this seminar, along with what it is that you would most like to learn. This workshop is intended to recognize different social expectations along with roles and life situations that happen. Women often take the caretaker role, and in some cases neglect themselves to help others. We also live longer than men, and we, in some cases, spend time in and out of the workforce. Taking the financial independence assessment. There is a handout that is accessible through the link. On page 1, there is a financial dependent assessment to take. And pretty much by asking yourself these questions, if you answer a majority of them as a number 1, then that puts you in at the dependent category. If you answer a majority of your questions as with number 2, then you are considered independent. Independence is not about ignoring the needs of others. It's about being able to handle your finances and life situations without letting them control you. This workshop is intended to give you the tools and knowledge to be financially independent. Budgeting. The first step in budgeting is to actually list out and be detailed with what it is that you're actually spending now. The handout also that I was just discussing on the second page has a detailed chart that you can use to list out expenses. It also has where you can list out your actual income. Along with budgeting, it's also important to list out things that are wanted, such as that you're not spending money on now, such as a savings account or life insurance premiums. It's good to list these wants out, so if there's any extra money left on a monthly basis, money can be allocated to these accounts. Once everything is listed out, deduct expenses from your income. If you are spending more than you're earning, changes have to be made and adjusted. When your expenses exceed your income, in those cases, you're not able to pay your bills, and in some cases, credit is used to pay for these expenses. There are ways to cut expenses down. For example, it could be cutting down on dining out, canceling a gym membership, trading in a car for maybe a cheaper payment, and possibly spending a little bit less on clothes. A budget is only helpful if it is used and followed and tracked. There's a variety of different ways to track expenses, and it's just a matter of comfort. It could be more of a manual way where you literally jot everything down, pen and paper. It could be an actual Excel spreadsheet, or in some cases, some of our members use a debit or a credit card to keep tabs of daily charges that are being made. Along with that, having a good credit score is really important. You need a good credit score to purchase a home, buy a car, rent an apartment, in some cases get a job. Your credit score is measured by the likelihood that you'll pay back credit that you borrow in the future. For some, student loans are the first type of credit that they incur. So actually establishing credit further than that, or if you don't have any student loans, a good basis to start is actually applying for a credit card itself. If you get approved for the credit card, that's great. If not, applying for a secured credit card is one option, or maybe even a retail credit card, retail department store credit card. But just know those tend to have somewhat of a higher interest rate. As far as the secured credit card, those are the easiest ones to get, but generally you actually have to put money down, and then after some months, maybe 3-6 months, pay those balances on time. You can possibly get approved for a regular credit card on your own. The Equal Opportunity Act, what that entails is that you have the right to have a separate credit card from your husband. Debt. For many people, based on the current terms of their credit, it could be years until they are debt-free. There's a variety of different ways to pay down debt. One way is to focus on extra payments, one creditor at a time. So it's a matter of just listing all the creditors that you actually owe. You can focus on paying the smallest balance first, or possibly the largest balance first. And then once you're done with that, whatever payment you were making on that balance, using it on the next one, we call it the snowball effect, to start finish paying it off quicker. Another option is to list out the credit cards that you have, or debt that you have, and figure out which one is charging the highest interest rate. Once that's entailed, pay that one off first, and then go from there. Another option is to actually apply for a consolidation loan or a credit card with a lower interest rate, if not a 0% rate. The key to this, though, is to transfer those balances over to this line of credit or to this loan, but not use the actual credit card that you paid off. What use would it be if you transferred those balances and you went back to use those credit cards? It would actually defeat the purpose. It would actually put you into more debt. So it's imperative to consolidate that debt, stay focused on just paying off that actual loan or credit card that you transfer the balance to, and don't use the credit cards that were just paid off. Lack of health insurance is a problem that many people face. Women are especially vulnerable because we are more likely to work part-time, where benefits are usually not provided for part-time workers. And if by any chance you're covered for insurance, health insurance through a spouse, and you find yourself in a situation of divorce or widowhood, it could put you at risk of losing coverage. If you have health insurance through a spouse and you lose it through a divorce or widowhood, there is a COBRA insurance that can cover for a limited amount of time. If you find yourself without health insurance and your income is below a certain limit, or if you are pregnant or disabled, you can possibly get a coverage through Medicaid or a state health insurance program. Another option is purchasing catastrophic medical insurance. It does not cover routine medical costs, but it does cover major medical events. The next topic is life insurance. Life insurance is intended to provide for loved ones that depend on you if you happen to pass away. If you are single, you don't have dependents, then there's no need for life insurance. Life insurance generally replaces wages and services. For example, if you're a stay-at-home mom, life insurance can possibly allow for you to pay for child care if you happen to pass. If you are employed, it's also important to consider getting disability insurance if you don't already have it. There are some companies do provide, if not at all. It's just coverage in case you happen to get injured. Saving for retirement. Women generally earn less than men, and along with being out of the workforce more than men and living longer, we tend to receive less from a company's pension plan and Social Security because benefits are calculated on income and the number of years employed. Along with pension plans becoming less common, it's more common now for companies to offer a defined contribution plan, for example, like a 401k, where you have to actually add to it, contribute. The sooner you start contributing, the better. And it's also important to have enough on there, have enough saved up so you don't run out of funds before you die. Most generally contribute to their 401k with what they can afford to contribute, but it's best to actually figure out what it is, how much do you actually need to retire, and then go that route instead of how much you can afford to add to your 401k. There's also an option to open a separate IRA to contribute towards retirement. There are traditional Roth options available to contribute to retirement, aside from a pension or 401k. While many women manage their family budgets, investing is still seen as a domain of men. It's not uncommon for women to put all their savings in more conservative vehicles, for example, like a savings or a CD. The only issue with this is the very low return. As far as savings vehicles, we have savings accounts, CDs, bonds, and stocks. Savings and CDs generally have a zero risk for you to lose your money. But as a result of that, the interest is a lot less earned. Bonds, on the other hand, are the reverse. You're literally the credit card mortgager. You're giving money, and you expect them to pay you back. As far as stocks, you are the owner of said company or the stock that you're purchasing the company from. There are two ways to earn money on these stocks. One option is actually selling the stocks for more than what you purchased them, and the other option is earning dividends or interest on those stocks. When investing your money, it's best to diversify. It's best to have your funds in more than one option and level of risk. By doing so, you are building wealth, and you're keeping up with inflation. Okay, so let's move forward. And let's see here. So now we're going to move on to different life stages that women go through. The first is many people at some point in their lives deal with managing finances or paying for expenses with someone else, whether it be through marriage or cohabitation. Finances are one of the issues that most couples fight about. So it's best to be honest about different management styles and levels of debt. It's best to question whether you are a spender, are you a saver, do you tend to pay your full credit card balance off, or are you more of the minimum payment type of person? By addressing these behaviors, you'll be able to actually change some of them, or at least be honest to figure out how to best manage a household budget. The biggest question is whether to have a separate or a joint checking account. There's no right answer for each. Each couple is independent and figuring out what works best for them. As long as both agree and communicate and keep spending under control, at the end of the day, and bills are being paid, that's the most important thing. The next topic is actually whether you should get joint credit or not. Having, for example, like a joint credit card could be convenient, but it's also really important to understand prior to accepting that card or applying for the card that each party is responsible for paying that debt back, whether the relationship is going great or not. Prior to taking out that card or signing, it's really important to take that into account. But it could be a great way to manage expenses. You both have access, you both can view it, you're both establishing credit. As long as everything's being paid on time and working out, it should be good. So as mentioned earlier, it's best to be honest with your partner, create common goals, and there's no right answer. It just really depends on the couple itself. The next milestone is planning for children. It's best to prepare as soon as possible prior to even becoming pregnant. As mentioned earlier, if you have short-term disability, it's imperative to figure out what the actual benefits are. And savings is also a great option to have in case expenses increase during this time. For many women, once they have children, they face the decision whether or not to continue working or to quit or to stay at home. For some families, the decision is whether or not, or in some cases, depending on what the situation is in the household, maybe the husband should stay home. Staying at home allows more time to spend with the child, but the family income will be adjusted and in some cases drop drastically. So it's really important to examine and re-examine the budget at this time to make sure it is feasible to stay at home. Now, if you do decide to go back to work, your family's income will stay the same, but taking into account daycare costs is also crucial. One option, since daycare costs in some cases are extremely expensive, finding cheap daycare options is important. There are some religious institutions, maybe the YMCA or cooperative, that can maybe give you a discount, if not offer lower daycare costs. While having children does increase expenses, keep in mind there's also a tax benefit attached to it. If you find yourself that you're, a single mom who must have to work and pay for daycare, making sure that if the father's not working or if there's an informal agreement, it's a good idea to have a child support order. Having that order gives the child support authorities more options to collect, such as garnishing wages or levying a checking or savings account. Also, if your income is limited, it's a great idea to check resources as far as the WIC for food assistance or maybe some child care subsidies or subsidizing housing that can help a budget. Caring for parents. Aging parents is something that everyone has to deal with, but often the daughter generally takes on the primary responsibility for caretaking. If your parents happen to have long-term care insurance, it does make things a little bit easier. It's best to consult, if this is the case, it's best to consult a geriatric care manager who can assist with training and figuring out with siblings, especially if there's not an agreement or if there's conflict on how to, what's the appropriate course of action to take when trying to care for a parent. If a parent lives with you and is physically or medically disabled, and you provide for more than half of their support, you can use a tax-free flexible spending account to help pay for expenses. For some who are actually working and you're caring for parents, if your employer offers the option, FMLA, Family Medical Leave Act, might be an option to leave unpaid without being fired or promoted to take care of a parent. Next is divorce. Often divorce is financially difficult for women, more financially difficult for women than men. Many divorcing women have no jobs because they were stay-at-home mothers, or they have lower paying jobs than their husbands. And in some cases, after the divorce, may not receive enough in child care to truly meet all needs. No one gets married hoping to end in divorce, but it's best to protect yourself during the marriage and make sure that you're financially independent while you're married, just in case this were to happen. So having your own checking savings account and establishing your own credit is imperative in case this happens. Even if the split is amicable, it's best to hire your own attorney to make sure that you are being treated fairly and that all resources are being taken into account fairly. Women are also much more likely to be widowed than men. So it's best to prepare before it could possibly happen. Make sure you know where all important documents are, for example, like wills, deeds to houses and cars, utility statements, debt statements, financial statements, passwords are really important to have. If your husband has a pension, you also want to decide what option to choose if he retires, unless you waive your rights in the choice between a 50% plan where you receive 50% of the original benefit level after your husband dies, or 100% of the plan where you receive 100% of the original benefit level after he dies. Social Security and other sources of income in some cases could possibly provide enough or may not provide enough. So it's best to be prepared. Also, after, if your husband passes, it's best to not make major financial decisions right after. Grief can cause people to make decisions they wouldn't normally make. So it's best to wait minimally at least 6 months or more, maybe possibly a year, to make major decisions. And it's also best to consult a lawyer to reinstate, whether it be a will, your husband's estate, or possibly even like a trust. Well, you now have enough information to create a basic financial plan. You can use the checklist that's provided towards the end of the packet that we have provided. It is best to be specific about what you need to do and what you want to achieve. It's imperative to be focused so that way you're able to stay on budget and avoid using debt. Save and be prepared for whatever challenges you face in the future. If you have any questions, Pete and I are always here to assist, whether it be now or in the future. And then also at my level, I personally use Balance. I also refer a lot of our members to Balance to help with some questions that we might not be able to answer here at this level. So like, for example, like if someone's asking about probate, or they're asking about student loans, or they have questions about credit, we can help you review your credit bureau here. But Balance, they're a credit counseling service that we use in conjunction with our members so that we can help them with their financial needs if credit is an issue. But as Pete mentioned earlier, this pretty much ends the presentation. Pete, I'm not sure if you're there.
Oh, yeah, I'm here. Thank you, Yadi. Awesome information. It's a lot of information. So I'll just say this. A few questions did come in, and I answered them the best that I could. And just as Yadi had mentioned, initially, you can speak with Yadi, but we can refer you to certain people who are experts in their field, whether it comes to insurance or retirement accounts, stuff like that. So I think I'm just looking if any other questions. No, we're all good with the questions right now. So I really just want to thank everybody for joining us this morning on this overcast Saturday morning. And we always hope you walk away with a little bit more knowledge on the subject that we present, and at the very least, remind you of some basics that you probably already know. We're going to follow up this PowerPoint presentation in the next few days. I'm going to convert it into a PDF file and send that to you in an email probably on Monday. I'll do that. And next month, I will personally be presenting a presentation on building a budget, and it's geared towards youth. And I do the same kind of presentations for the Youth Job Center every other week. And this particular session, though, is for parents to attend with their kids. And I will provide a link to that information as well. And with that, I will let Yadi have the final word. But I just want to wish everybody the best of health, wealth, and positivity. So thank you, and have a great weekend. Yadi?
Yes, thanks for joining us again. And if you happen to have any questions, by all means, do not hesitate to reach out to me. And have yourself a great rest of your weekend. Thank you.
Bye-bye.